John is here with Mark Barden. I'm the course leader for Sports Journalism at LCC, undergraduate level.
Thank you, Mark. Could you tell us a little bit about your course, please, and about the aspirations you have for your course?
Sure. Well, obviously, it's a 3-year undergraduate course. It's a kind of niche course, I guess, if you like. It's a kind of specialism within journalism. There is a separate journalism course, and there's a separate magazine journalism and publishing course, and we're the kind of smallest one of the family. We only look to take on about 20-25 students every year. And the idea, obviously, the name is the giveaway, really. They want to be sports journalists. Now, that covers a range of jobs within the sports media, but they should all, I hope when they join the course, their aspiration is to become media professionals in a sports environment, fueled mainly by, hopefully, their love of sport. That's the good starting point. It's the kind of common currency that everyone coming onto the course should have, real passion for sport. It's something that we can always talk about and debate and discuss and argue about and joke about. So there's always that kind of bond between us as tutors and the students as students. We quickly find out which ones are serious about it. We stress from the start, it is a very vocational course. They should use every opportunity they are given to network, make contacts, get work experience, go to sports events, all of that kind of stuff. Some kind of treat it as a bit of a laugh because they think it's sport and how hard can it be kind of thing, to become a sports journalist. It is actually pretty competitive out there, and the ones that really buy into the course get that, and the ones that don't, I'm afraid, are going to struggle at the end of the day to find jobs in the sports media.
Right.
But yeah, my kind of, I come to it from a very practice-based background. I'm ex-BBC Sport. I've worked in local newspapers. I've worked in PR jobs as well, sports-connected PR jobs. And, I'm here to kind of impart my experience and knowledge of how to do the job with the team that kind of works with me and guest speakers that we bring in and all that kind of thing. Yeah, and the idea is just hopefully, fingers crossed, touch wood, to send them out into the world with the right kind of skills, the right kind of drive and determination, the latter which really has to come from them. We can't really instill that necessarily in them, but hopefully by the time they leave us, they'll be competent and they can build on those skills as they start professional work.
And how does the design of the course actually support these aspirations and these goals?
Well, the design of the course is pretty much a 50-50 split, really, between the contextual and the practical side. Obviously, the practical side is learning how to be a sports journalist and practicing how to be a sports journalist. The contextual side is about giving them a bigger picture, how sport fits into, its kind of the context of society, politics, economics, business, commerce, all that kind of thing. We think that the better their understanding of that area, the better sports journalists they'll be, rather than just be focused on events and players and managers and all that kind of stuff. Interesting though that is, how sport fits into our lives is a kind of big part of what we do, and how sport fits into our society's histories and how it's developed, and how sport has developed from its kind of origins centuries ago to what we see today as a kind of, at its highest level, a very kind of lucrative, monetised commodity, if you like. And how does sports journalism fit into that? How does, sport generate money to employ sports journalists? Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
And how does the digital aspect of the course support these goals and these aspirations?
Well, I guess the key one is when we get to the year 3, when they work on the final major project. I use a My Blog Arts site to facilitate that project. It's called Elephant Sport, for obvious reasons. It's only been in existence for, I think this is our second full year of using it. Should I give you some context to how that came about?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, when I started working here, before I led the course, the sports journalism third years linked up with the journalism third years on a project called Arts London News, which is a kind of more newspaper-based plus website, meant to be digital first, but it was kind of all about getting stuff into the newspaper for the students, I think, seeing their bylines, and there was a sports supplement within that. So the sports students had their pages to fill and they put stuff on the website and off they went, and it all seemed fine. Journalism changed from that kind of local newspaper model, if you like, to a more magazine style product, which is now called Artifact, which is very popular, has done very well, has won awards. But the tone of Artifact, as an artifact, if you like, was very much to do with art, culture, politics. And suddenly, sport didn't really have a natural home within those boundaries, if you like. And the first year where the two were combined on that project, there was a lot of kind of dissatisfied sports third years saying we don't really know what to do, we don't really know what to write about, what we do doesn't really fit in with what Artifact wants to be or aspires to be. And that subsequently led to all sorts of problems about, engagement, attendance, people lacking motivation to actually produce work. So when I took over the course as course leader, I decided that they should have their own platform to produce work for, rather than try and wedge sports stuff into this kind of more artsy, cultural type magazine, which they struggled to do in that first year. They should have their own platform and their own magazine, actually. We do a once a year magazine, sport-based magazine called Elephant Sport as well. But the primary thrust, it's a digital first project, the primary thrust of it is to produce work for the Elephant Sport website, which is hosted by My Blog Arts.
Thank you. Yes, I'm familiar with the site, obviously, and a lot of work has gone into that, hasn't it? A lot of work. It has a particular look, it has a particular feel, it looks very, very professional, it's open to the whole wide world.
The theme of it, actually, I because we'd paid for it for Arts London News, and it was then made redundant by Arts London News not existing anymore, I just carried on the theme because we kind of had it, we'd paid for it, I think. Yeah, it kind of works pretty well. It's if you compare it to the Artifact website, it's a bit more visual, the Artifact website, bigger kind of carousel photos and things. Yeah, I think it works well, and I think the students, the first year the students did it, it was a new thing. They weren't quite sure necessarily. It took them a while to get going because years 1 and 2 are about developing their ambitions and the scope of their journalism. So they start off from the basics, obviously, get into year 2, develop those basics, become more ambitious in what they do, become more in depth in their research, start making more contacts that they can go and interview, all with a view, hopefully, of getting into the third year and producing some really good work. Now, the teaching staff are there to help them do that, and help them develop ideas and suggest ways they might go off in to research something, or people they might want to interview, stories they might want to follow up. But again, the best students are kind of self-starters, if you like, and will have ideas and will have people that they want to approach about getting interviews and that kind of stuff. So I think the idea of Elephant Sport is really good is that it kind of you see the end product of it. You see your byline on a website that's then supported by like social media. We kind of tweet stuff out, get stuff retweeted by people who were interviewed, or we want to send stuff to people. It's just all about ownership, I think, for our students. They kind of we promote it as their site. It's their site. They're responsible for filling it with good quality sports journalism, whether that's written, video, podcasts, and we want them to be proud of it. We want them to kind of think, I want to see a lot of my work on this. I want to have a portfolio that's mainly based on what I've done for Elephant Sport. The key advantage of that, we always try to tell them, is that if you do it for Elephant Sport, your work will be sub-edited by tutors, and we may ask you to rewrite things, or we may just tweak them and then publish. But at the end of the day, it's not going onto the site unless it's met a certain quality threshold. So anything you put in your portfolio that's been published in Elephant Sport is kind of good enough. There's a boundary, then a wide range within that, yes, of what's good enough and what's really good. Yeah. So as in the professional media environment, you will have people checking through your work, sub-editing it, helping you to make it better, and helping you to become a better sports journalist through that process. It's kind of a no-brainer. If we see your work and check it through and we're happy with it and we publish it, that's good enough to go in your portfolio. Why wouldn't you do that? Yeah. And sometimes it takes them a little while to get into it. But then once they get into the flow, they start producing work. They start hopefully producing a variety of work, and by the end of term 2, they've pretty much got a solid portfolio sorted out.
Right. What sort of feedback do you get, or what sort of engagement do you get from actually people within the industry?
Pretty good. I mean, I couldn't sit here and say that the traffic for the site is massive. When the students have spoken to people who are fairly high profile in their sports, they quite often will get them to retweet the article, and hopefully they're happy with it when they see it and they think, great, this is helping me to raise my profile. It's particularly good with Paralympians who struggle to kind of get enough media coverage, and they're usually kind of delighted, even if it's just a project like ours, like Elephant Sport, 3rd year, final major project at university. They do an interview with one of our students. They're happy to kind of, promote that. Their governing bodies are quite often happy to promote that as well. A lot of sport at the elite end is all about attracting attention, is all about getting sponsors, is all about raising a profile to kind of commercialise your sport, if you like. So yeah, it kind of gets good feedback. The key thing, I think, though, is that it is that portfolio. So when people go out looking for jobs and people say, show me some of your work, they can point to the stuff that they've done for Elephant Sport and say, hopefully there's a range and variety there.
Yes.
And especially with video content these days, it's becoming increasingly important in the sports media industry to know how to shoot and edit video. So if they've got a portfolio that includes several pieces of that, and it's been produced to a fairly high standard, it makes them stand out. Again, one of the messages that we try to impart is it's all about standing out, making yourself stand out. And the last time I checked, there were about 16, 17 of these courses dotted around the country. That's a lot of graduates coming out every year into an industry with lots of jobs, but at the same time, that's a fairly limited number of entry-level jobs, and it's very competitive, as I said. So you really do have to stand out. You have to differentiate yourself from all the other graduates that are coming through, who they all like football, they want to write about football half the time. How do you make yourself stand out? It's all about kind of, getting someone to give you a chance because they're kind of impressed with the work that they've seen you do as a student. We get good feedback from what we do, but the best feedback, I guess, is getting people into jobs
Yes.
at the end of the day.
Yeah.
What we do with Elephant Sport supports that and can only help them do that, I think.
Yeah.
I think the ones that get it will pick up on that and use you and your time and the platform that we created for them to their advantage and come up with some really good stuff. When I used to tell people, I'm a sports journalist, people would go, great, what a fantastic job. So you go to things, what have you been covering? It's an area that people are kind of, they think you've got it made if you're working as a sports journalist kind of thing. And to some extent you have. It is a great job, but it does involve a lot of hard work, a lot of unsocial hours, possibly being away from home a lot, working weekends all the time, working late after a game's finished and all that kind of stuff, or being rung up on your day off because you've got a contact that can develop a story. It's not a 9-to-5 job. You've got to treat it, sport's got to be the way you make your living rather than just something that's there to amuse and entertain you. What helps actually is when you've got something like Elephant Sport, when you approach people, you don't necessarily just have to say, oh, well, could I interview you because it's for my portfolio for my final major project. You can say, could I interview you for my university's sport website? That immediately kind of has a bit more clout, if you like, a bit more resonance with people. If they think it's just for some kind of academic purpose and it's going to be tucked away in someone's portfolio and only their tutors are going to see it, why should they do it? But if you say, well, actually, this is this website we all work on and it's seen by the wider world and it's active on social media, you could actually benefit from being interviewed by us in terms of your own profile. So things like we've had people interviewing like aspiring boxers, other sportsmen, because it's all good stuff for them. They kind of, especially at the start of their career, they're kind of looking to build a profile, looking to get more people interested in their sports. They will take any opportunity they can to kind of do that. And if that means you get interviewed by a third-year sports journalism student who hopefully does a good interview and gets a good story out of you, and that makes for a kind of good piece of journalism, everyone wins. So yeah, we have had some fairly high-profile sports people seeing the value of doing it this year, current year. One of the sort of more able students, one of the first interviews he did was with a former WBC middleweight boxing champion. It was a really good interview, Yeah, and I think the more mature it gets as a project and the more good stuff there is on the website, if people ever say, oh, can I see some of the stuff that's kind of been there, is there already, and you can send them some examples, and including some of the names who have kind of spoken to us or whatever, or done videos with us and things, it helps. I mean, two of the students, again, to pick on boxing, two of my students this year went off together up to Birmingham to interview the British middleweight boxing champion who's just about to fight for a world title in his training camp stroke gym. They came back with a really good kind of video package. That's partly to do with the fact that one of them had a connection to this guy through someone else. That's all about developing contacts.
Yes.
But, he was happy to do it. I think he was happy with what he saw, as the finished product. And it will look fantastic in their portfolio. They both did like a little piece to camera at the start of it, so they could have different edits. And then the questions to this guy Tommy Langford are, the questions that they chose to ask him, and it just looks good. Solid, good piece of work with both the students doing little pieces to camera to show that they can do that, and they've managed to bag an interview with a really high-profile sportsman. So that kind of thing can only help to cement the credentials of the site.
Any other comments?
No, I mean, at the end of the day, it's something I'm really glad I did. It also, the way we structure it in terms of them pitching ideas to us as tutors, getting our approval or rejection, or we help them develop ideas, is hopefully very much replicating the way the real world works, and how they might be working in the future. So yeah, it's about kind of shaping their kind of professional approach to their work as well, I think, and that's helped us do that. It's still a work in progress, and I think it will, it may change and develop. It will change and develop as we go along, because I think if anything stays the same for too long, it just becomes a bit stale.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a very worthwhile thing to do, and I think for 2/3 of the students in every cohort that tackles this kind of final major project, it works pretty well for them, and they get a good portfolio of work out of it, which when push comes to shove is what we really want. It's not about me running a website thinking, oh well, I just need them to make this website look really good. It's about the work they do, so when they come out at the end of the course, in that final year, they've got work they can show off and be proud of, and they're equipped by that final year for some of the challenges that lie ahead.
Yes, excellent. Mark Barden, thank you very much.
Pleasure. Okay.